Hi, y'all, and welcome to tonight's live stream. Luigi Mangione was catapulted to international fame when he was arrested and charged with murdering Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare. Mangione is currently in federal prison in New York, awaiting trial in two state cases and a federal case, all related to either his fleeing from the scene or to the actual murder of Brian Thompson. Now, this past week, Luigi Mangione has done something completely unprecedented. I have never heard of this before. He has launched an a website of his own, a website on which he talks about the case. He makes a statement, his attorneys make statements, and they provide information and facts about the case. His attorneys launched the web page, but on the very first page of it, there is a Luigi Mangione statement to the world that he makes. For it is true that Luigi Mangione is a despised murderer to many people, but he has a surprising number of supporters who believe he's sort of a Robin Hood of type on behalf of all Americans against the health system. Luigi has been actually raising funds for his defense. It's not clear whether he needs it. He does come from a family with money, but the truth is, defending yourself on all of these charges, federal, state, and particularly with the possibility of a death penalty case in the offing, that is extraordinarily expensive. Not even many wealthy people could afford that. Few people could. So tonight we're going to go through that website that he has put up together and talk about a couple of questions. Why is this website so incredibly controversial? And then secondly, I want to ask the question, is it going to get Luigi Mangione or his attorneys in trouble? At the very end, then, I'm going to talk a little about a point that I think everybody is missing about this website, a critical point that I don't think people are talking about it. So let's start with just a little bit of background. United Healthcare is the largest private health insurer in the country. They were having an investor meeting in New York on December 4th, 2024. Thompson was walking from his hotel to another hotel where the meeting was being held. Someone walked up behind him, came behind him and shot him from the back. The murder, the entire thing was caught on videotape. And then police traced the person they believe committed it through using webcam and other things through the streets of New York. But ultimately, the person disappeared. 5 days later, police arrested Luigi Mangione and charged him with being the person who had committed the murder. He was apprehended at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Now, he was charged with a number of smaller crimes in Pennsylvania shortly after he was arrested there, like forgery and carrying a firearm without a license, tampering with records or identification, possessing instruments of crime, false identification to law enforcement authorities. But that was small peanuts compared to what was about to be charged, because he was extradited to New York to face murder charges in state court in New York. New York does not have the death penalty as an option. He also has had federal charges brought against him. Those federal charges conceivably could yield the death penalty. So now he has 3 different cases that are pending. So let's get into the website, and I want to we're going to do a tour through the website. You'll be able to see what it says. I'm going to talk about some things I like about it, some things I think are risky for Luigi Mangione and for his attorneys. And I'm going to ask the question, is anybody going to get in trouble because of this? Is the court going to force them to take it down? We'll talk a little bit about that. So special shout out tonight to the first 5 in the chat: Connie Presley, Shiroshina, Julie Frew, Oklahoma Gigi, and KCAM4. We are celebrating a very, very special anniversary tonight, which is it's our 1-year anniversary of having members. So you'll see some in the chat who have been members for an entire year. I'm so appreciative. Thank you all. I want to say a special shout out to Marlon, one of our moderators, who makes all the emojis that we're able to use and give to members. We will be having a special celebration of our 1-year anniversary of members this week. So everyone who's a member will be able to come to this special live stream celebration. We are going to be doing something really wild. I have no idea whether it will completely work or not, but I think it's going to be so much fun. We are going to be writing our own true crime novel using AI and your suggestions. And it's going to be wild. I can't even imagine how many different detours and turns it will take, but we are going to get started on that this week. I am thinking it's probably going to be on Friday, but I haven't made a final decision on that. But I'm thinking Friday after our regularly scheduled live stream. So let's dive in. I want to talk about, first of all, I want to give you just an overview of what the rules are that are going to apply here. So let's go ahead and add to the stage, because there are specific rules that apply to what lawyers are allowed to say about a case. This website that we're about to look at talks specifically, says that it was created by Luigi Mangione's attorney. So they'll be held to this standard. So this is the standard to look at to say, are they going to get in trouble? Is there anything wrong with what they did? Or is everything proper with what they've done? So let's take a look. These are rules lawyers have, professionalism rules about trial publicity. This is rule 3.6 from New York. A lawyer, and I've highlighted the parts that we're going to focus on, shall not make an extrajudicial statement. That means something outside the courtroom that the lawyer knows or reasonably should know will be disseminated by means of public communication. So you're not supposed to say something outside the courtroom that you know is going to be broadcast to other people publicly. And we'll have, it's not just that you can't say anything outside the courtroom. It has to be you can't say anything outside the courtroom that will have a substantial likelihood of materially prejudicing an adjudicative proceeding in the matter. In other words, it can't just be, okay, you said something about the case. It has to be something that would materially prejudice what we're about to do, which is try a case for murder and determine whether or not Luigi Mangione is guilty. It has to be something that has a substantial likelihood. That means we really think it probably would, materially prejudicing what's going to happen in the courtroom. So, and they say, okay, what are the rules around that? Well, there are 4 things that are likely to prejudice. Number 1 is character. And you can see it there, the character, credibility, reputation, or criminal record of a party, suspect in a criminal investigation or witness, or the identity of a witness or the expected testimony of a party or witness. So what you're looking at is, here are some statements that would likely be a problem. Statements about the character of a party or witness are likely to be a problem. So we'll be looking at, does this website have anything like that? Next thing, evidence. We're going to skip to number 3, evidence or refusal to test. So you aren't supposed to talk about the performance or results of any examination or test, or the refusal or failure of a person to submit to an examination or test, or the identity or nature of physical evidence expected to be presented. So that anything related to physical evidence, that shouldn't be talked about outside the courtroom, or refusal to test. Opinion of guilt or innocence. So if they aren't supposed to talk about their opinion as to the guilt or innocence of a defendant or suspect in a criminal matter that could result in incarceration. And then finally, inadmissible, for purposes of this, inadmissible evidence, substantial risk of prejudicing. It's information the lawyer knows or reasonably should know is likely to be inadmissible as evidence in a trial and would, if disclosed, create a substantial risk of prejudicing an impartial trial. So overview, character, evidence, refusal to test, opinion of guilt or innocence, and inadmissible evidence that might well prejudice what's going to happen in the courtroom. All of those things are supposed to be off limits. But here are things that are okay. These are fine for lawyers to say. Say without elaboration. In other words, stick to the facts. But 1, claims or ID, the claim, offense, or defense, claim, offense, or defense, and except when prohibited by law, the identity of the persons involved. So there's nothing wrong with saying, here are the people involved, here are the charges against him, here's the defense he's going to make. None of that is off limits as long as it's not elaborated on. It's just a basic statement. Number 2, information contained in a public record, and that is the most important one of all in this case. Number 3, that an investigation of a matter is in progress. Number 4, the scheduling or result of any step in litigation. So you can say this is how the judge ruled. You can say our hearing is next Monday. We're start at 9 in the morning. And you can say where the courthouse is. Those sort of basic things are totally fine. Number 5, a request for assistance in obtaining evidence and information necessary thereto. So you can say, we need help finding the person who saw the wreck at the corner, blah, and blah. And if you saw it, please give me a call. That would be fine too. And here's the sort of catch-all extra section. Notwithstanding everything you just read, a lawyer may make a statement that a reasonable lawyer would believe is required to protect a client from the substantial prejudicial effect of recent publicity not initiated by the lawyer or the lawyer's client. A statement made pursuant to this paragraph shall be limited to such information as is necessary. So if there have been very negative statements about the client out in the public, then the lawyer is allowed to say things that will counter that will say, okay, this was prejudicial. You probably heard that my client, make up some fat, took drugs before driving. But in fact, we have evidence that he didn't. So if it's something that would counter the prejudicial effect of very recent publicity, and it isn't the lawyer's fault that it was made public, it isn't the client's fault that it was made public, then you're allowed to talk about that. So, okay, let's remove that from the stage, and then I'll wait, I hit muted by mistake. Okay, is it back? I see all those X problems. Is that better? Can you hear now? I hope that you can hear now. I'll give it just a second. Back. Oh, whew. Okay, good. Whew, that is a great relief. Okay, so I think I just hit the button by mistake. So my bad. All right, so let's share our screen so you can look at this too. We're going to add a new screen, the one with the website in it. And here it is. Okay. So this is Luigi Mangione's new website. And you can see it's got a series of sections across the top. It's really only one page, and each of these just takes you further down the page. But these are the sections that are on the one page. It's very simple. The most important part is the initial little section. And they say, due to the extraordinary volume of inquiries and outpouring of support, this site was created and is maintained by Luigi Mangione's New York legal defense team to provide answers to frequently asked questions, accurate information about his cases, and dispel misinformation. All of those completely allowed under the rules that I just mentioned to you. The intent is to share factual information regarding the unprecedented multiple prosecutions against him. So that all of those make sense. All of those fit within the rules that we talked about. He's allowed to talk about that. That's fair and honest game. So, and I often talk about the fact that I think the defendants ought to think more, understand more, lawyers ought to understand more about the effect that social media and the media is having on cases beyond anything that lawyers experienced in the past. This is completely new and different. And we have to rethink what we're doing. In this particular case, I think this is a brilliant move to have a website like this. I think it's so smart to have the legal defense team do it, because then you're filtering everything through a group of people who are focused on, is this okay? Are we going to get in trouble for this? So it still, though, carries risk. It carries risk related to those rules, risk of upsetting the judge, risk of offending the public. So we'll keep reading. So here is the message from Luigi Mangione himself. Now, this is just unprecedented. A press statement issued on the internet on his own website from the defendant himself. And he says, I am overwhelmed by and grateful for everyone who has written me to share their stories and express their support. Powerfully, this support has transcended political, racial, and even class divisions as mail has flooded MDC, that's the correctional facility where he's being held, from across the country and around the globe. While it is impossible for me to reply to most letters, please know that I read every one that I receive. Thank you again to everyone who took the time to write. I look forward to hearing more in the future. So the question then is, and I think because it says that this is Luigi Mangione's defense counsel are running this, that they will be this will be held to the standard of what are lawyers allowed to talk about or put on the internet, or in general, what are they allowed to say? And in this particular case, the question is this a problem? And let's remember up front, I'm going to say, I believe defendants have the right to speak in the public. I believe very much that they have the right to counter things that are being said about them by law enforcement, by the prosecution. I think it's the only fair way to conduct a trial. I also believe it's okay to raise funds. We're going to talk about some nuance around that in just a minute. But the accusation here is that what he's doing with this statement is focusing on the idea that people around the world are celebrating him, are writing him, that he has fans, so to speak. So does that hint at the idea of jury nullification, which is the jury making a decision despite the law? They hear the charge from the judge and they're like, we just, no, not in this case, no. And does it hint at something like that? And let's take a look at B5 of what we just read. I'll just read it to you so we can keep this up on the screen. Information the lawyer knows or reasonably should know is likely to be inadmissible as evidence. And certainly people writing Luigi, that would be inadmissible. And would, if disclosed, create a substantial risk of prejudicing an impartial trial. So that's going to be the question. Is there anything about that statement that would create a substantial risk, not just a little risk, substantial risk of prejudicing the trial, and particularly likely prejudicing the jury? I don't think so. I mean, I think it's pretty innocuous, but I think that's the kind of thing that makes this controversial. That's the kind of, and this is probably the most controversial thing other than the raising of funds. And we'll get to that. But I think they're fine with this. I don't think he'll get in trouble, but that's why it's on the edge, is the question of whether or not this could prejudice the jury. Hearing that, I have fans, many people support me. And in my view, that wouldn't, but that's the kind of thing that the court will be considering, that if the prosecution goes after this, I suspect that's the kind of argument they'll make. Now, the next thing he has is case updates. And this is just real simple. It's got a litigation calendar. What's next? What's coming up in the case? What's coming up and where will it be? Where is he going to be in New York? Where is he going to be in Pennsylvania? Where is he going to be in state court? Where is he going to be in federal court? And gives you a specific link where you can go to get updates on the case. And in here, they actually have put in some of the documents that have been filed. I'll take you to it. So the way it works in federal court is that these things are found. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by reading the chat. I know I shouldn't do that. But all right. So when you try to get documents from a federal court case, you have to go onto a system called PACER. It's not free. Your first certain numbers are free, but after that, it begins to cost. So providing these documents to people for free makes it possible for it to reach more people. But no one has to pay. They don't have to know a special system. They can just click here and you can see they have many of them downloaded. Now, this one has buy on PACER. And I don't know if they just haven't had time to do that yet. I don't know how they've made their decisions, but this is so smart, just so smart. All it is it's media friendly. They aren't providing one piece of information here that isn't completely public, but they're making it easy to access, and they're making it something where the media just doesn't feel angry. It's not hard to get. It's just, oh, well, thank you. I personally really thought this was great, just even for me. Oh, I've been wanting to read that. I haven't been on Pacer yet. You have to log in. It's not all that. It's not terribly hard or anything, but it's a very awkward, very difficult to navigate system. Nothing on it works quite right. Even just to determine whether a document has been filed, you have to print out the docket itself, which print, I mean, you have to put that in. It's just expensive and time consuming and kind of clunky. So this is just, I think, brilliant. I don't think there's anything wrong at all. Now, this next section is super interesting. It's just a statement about who are the attorneys representing Luigi Mangione. And it's kind of a public announcement of who the attorneys are. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Some good PR for them. And they mention, you can see down there, Avi Moskowitz, who is appointed on the federal case because at least one of the charges carries capital punishment as a potential sentence, and that he is learned counsel. What that means is basically kind of like death penalty qualified. He's able to prosecute a death penalty case in a federal court. We saw something similar in the Chad Daybell case, where we learned that Chad Daybell's attorney was not death penalty qualified, and he wanted to hire someone who was, but wasn't able to find anyone. So Luigi is represented by all of those people, one person in Pennsylvania, other people in New York, and they're all listed here. It's great PR for them just to put this out. So I wouldn't be surprised to see people doing similar things in the future. It's frankly a really good idea if they can get away with it. As far as publicity for the attorney, it made sense. So now let's head down into, and also let me say too, there are rules around advertising for attorneys where attorneys aren't allowed to do certain types of advertising, but all this does is state the names of the attorneys. It's nothing that is at all inappropriate. It's just, here they are, their name, and it has a link. Probably, I don't think I've clicked on that, but I imagine it goes to their websites. So very reasonable on that. Okay, and now we're going to head into the statements over here. And I have a bunch of people to say hello to. Susan Moore, a member for 12 months a year. Congratulations. And thank you, Susan. I really appreciate your being around for that long. Bama Queen, also a member for 12 months. Thank you so much, Bama Queen. I appreciate that. And we have a new emoji, or I guess it's called an emoji, for the people who have been a member for 12 months. So you're seeing that tonight for the first time. Also designed by Marlon. He's done all of our emojis. MJ has been a member for 12 months. It is indeed your anniversary. We are so glad to have you here. And Annie K, thank you so much. Also a member for 12 months. And Jackie P, who has been a member for 12 months, also a super chat. Thank you. I appreciate that so much, Jackie P. All right. So let's head into the statements that are being made. Okay. Starting with, and they have them backwards. So I'll start at the bottom with December 18th, 2024, a statement by Luigi's attorney, and just says the federal government's reported decision to pile on top of an already overcharged first-degree murder and state terror case is highly unusual and raises serious constitutional and statutory double jeopardy concerns. We are ready to fight these charges in whatever court they are brought. So it's just a very generic statement. I can't imagine that there would be any problems with that. It seems very reasonable. December 19th, this is the best type of all because it's literally a quote from something she said in court. It starts with, "Yes, Your Honor." So this is just a quote taken from the transcript of the hearing on that particular day. And she says, "I'd like to follow up on what the government just said and seek clarity on exactly what it is that's happening, because this is a highly unusual situation we find ourselves in." And she goes through sort of a detailed description of, here was a press conference in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, but nobody mentioned to us that there was going to be a federal charge. and we were going to have a hearing today in New York, and here we are suddenly in federal court. And she says at the bottom, I find out today that all of a sudden we're here in the Southern District of New York facing charges that one charge is death eligible. And so she's saying, how many cases are there? Why are there so many different cases? This, it's inappropriate. So then the December 23rd statement from the New York Supreme Court transcript, again, straight from a transcript, super safe. First, and may I say, it's super safe in general. There are always risks around this because of the fact that statements made in court have a special privilege. Statements that are then transported outside the court don't have that special privilege, but it just means that she's literally quoting a transcript. I think it'd be difficult to get in significant trouble for that. So, and first we request immediate expedited discovery in this case. The people have had this case for almost 3 weeks, and that's more than enough time to gather as much information as they can give to us, especially now that we have 2 proceedings that we have to answer to, one of them being death eligible. So we're requesting that we get immediate discovery. And then she goes on to talk about the fact that he has the presumption of innocence, but his rights are being violated. And there's a wealth of case law about being his right to a fair trial. Nobody's protecting those rights yet. He's a young man, and he is being treated like a human ping pong ball between 2 warring jurisdictions here. The federal and state prosecutors are coordinating with one another at the expense of him. They have conflicting theories in their indictments, and they are literally treating him like he is some sort of political fodder, like some sort of spectacle. He was on display for everyone to see in the biggest stage perp walk I've ever seen in my career. It was absolutely unnecessary. And I don't know if any of you saw the video of that. It was wild. There were all these people all in dark clothes around him, uniforms, most of them. There was also the mayor of New York. They were all in heavy down jackets. It was very cold that day, I gather. And so they're all walking along toward the courthouse. Luigi Mangione is all alone in the middle of this sea of black uniforms wearing bright orange, and he has short sleeves on. I thought, wow, they couldn't find a jacket. I mean, it was quite the photo op. I have to agree with her on that. I've never seen anything like that. It was definitely a staged perp walk, and the visuals of it, the orange, the sea of uniforms and the dark black all around him, like wild. Okay. And she says he's been in custody for over a week. He waived extradition. He was cooperative at all accounts. There was no reason for the NYPD and everybody to have these big assault rifles that, frankly, I had no idea was in their arsenal. And have all of these, the press there, the media there, it was like perfectly choreographed. And what was the New York City mayor doing at this press conference, Your Honor? That just made it utterly political. And in fact, he got a lot of blowback for being there. Like, why are you there? You aren't really involved in this. Why should you be personally walking this perpetrator? What is your point of being there? And so as Your Honor knows, under Lauro v. Charles, the Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit has held it to be clearly established that the staged perp waltz to the media, unrelated to a legitimate law enforcement objective, is unconstitutional. And I submit there was zero law enforcement objective to do that sort of perp walk. I have to agree with her on that. It was so staged. It would be hard not to call that staged, frankly. I have to agree with her. And she makes a little dig at the mayor, who was, of course, having trouble of his own about the mayor should know more than anyone of the presumption of innocence that he too is afforded. And she talks about the fact that the mayor made statements about Luigi Mangione did this or that and forgot to use the magic word alleged. So he just talked about it like, yep, you did this. It's all you. And so that's the kind of thing she put on the record there. And we'll go to the final statement from a spokesperson saying, we're pleased to add Avi Moskowitz. He's going to be our learned counsel so that we can, this was the one other thing. The charges could not be more serious, and our client needs every resource at his disposal to fight these unprecedented charges in 3 jurisdictions. And I wasn't really sure what was unprecedented about it. It's not at all unprecedented for there to be if a defendant flees to another state, it would not be shocking to have charges in both states. And it's not shocking to have a charge in the state and in the federal courts. So wasn't quite sure what was unprecedented about it. That almost makes it sound like, he's being attacked by these charges unfairly. And it definitely, people could argue that he's innocent, that he didn't do it, anything like that. But the suggestion that it was unprecedented to charge someone for murder, that I thought was a little bit strong. But it's only one sentence in a long list of things. Okay, so let's see. Still over in the statements. Okay, they even have a frequently asked questions. And they say, we encourage anyone who would like to write to Luigi to refer to the guidelines. And then they have things, where is he in custody? And they tell you Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York. Can I send mail? The answer is yep. He's allowed to write and to receive letters. So sure, you can. Here's how you do it. And that there's a large volume of mail, could take longer than usual to be screened and delivered, etc. And they even give some little helpful tips, like if you're going to write him, he's going to get a photocopied version of your letter, not the original. So put a date on it, number the pages so they can be put back together, and have big margins, because when they copy it, you may lose some of that. Are there any restrictions on his mail? I sent him a letter. It was marked return to sender. And it turns out they're kind of picky about, you have to have your name printed below your signature. The return address has to be your full name plus the address. So those sorts of things. And may I send him items like books? The answer is yes, and don't do it right now, because apparently he can only have 5 and he must have a lot more than he needs. So he can only have 1 photo album and 25 single-sided photographs 4x6. So next question, can I send him photos? They said, yeah, but don't send more than 5. They talked about signing up for updates. What else can you send them? And they say nothing, but they do throw in a little hint about the commissary. Everything must be purchased through Luigi's commissary account. So I guess that's their hint. And here, I think a super important point, and this I want to get to and talk about, where can I contribute to Luigi Mangione's legal defense? And it tells you about going to a legal fund. I'll go at this. I'll have to switch back to the other thing. We'll just leave it at this. So it tells you to go to this other website and look up the legal fund for Luigi Mangione, and you can find how to contribute there. We're going to get a little bit more on this in a minute. And Luigi Mangione's only spokespeople are his attorneys. That's super wise, and not happening in the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni case, which we will be hitting next, I think, because it doesn't seem like the attorneys are necessarily doing the speaking. It seems like maybe the PR battle is continuing to be waged, and so it's not being sort of corralled carefully as a result. But let's take a look at this issue around the contributions. Let me get to the right spot in my notes. All right, and this is by far the biggest issue. It's controversial that a defendant would go out and raise funds for his attorneys. And it's also controversial that a defendant who goes out and raises funds, that the lawyer would put the website up to try to direct people to the contribution. So is the lawyer soliciting payment from other people? I would argue no, but that's why it's so controversial, is that people are making those sorts of arguments. People are sending money, according to what we understand. I have the page. Oh, I'll switch to that. So I'll have to stop that screen share. No, that's not right. Okay, present, share another screen. There. Okay, so here is the website, and where you donate to his fund, and it tells you down there that $473,783.42 have been raised, and that they were aiming for $1 million. Now, I don't have the website address or anything on here. I'm not trolling for his website. I just wanted you to see, what the fundraising looks like and that it's been very effective. He's already halfway to the $1 million. I don't know how they came up with the number. I don't know what made them think that's the exact number that we need, but that is what they are attempting to raise, and they're almost halfway there. So let's remove that. No, we're going to remove that. And we're going to stop. You have to go through a whole bunch of processes here. Okay, so we're heading back over to his website, taking a look at that. All right, so why are these contributions so controversial? Well, I want to go through a few discussion points, I guess, on this. The first is it's a pretty scathing indictment of our government, of our system, that defendants are asking for money to defend themselves. We have a system where we cover that. We cover counsel for a defendant, and in most cases also cover some experts, but it is not necessarily enough. Prosecutors have resources and law enforcement and expert witnesses available through law enforcement that defendants don't have available. So, and the statistics are frankly pretty grim for the defendants. Over 90% are going to lose. Most of them may well deserve it, but this is, for Luigi Mangione, an opportunity to try to even the playing field in terms of finances and in terms of the availability of experts and other kinds of witnesses. Now, this is nothing fair about this because it doesn't apply to all defendants. Most will not have a lawyer who's going to make a website. Most will never have the public's attention. The public wouldn't even look if they did make a website. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong to do it here. The fact that it isn't done for everybody isn't fair doesn't mean that it's wrong. Balancing correctly in some cases, maybe that would be better than balancing incorrectly in every single case. For example, it's ironic that in a few rare cases, defendants have more resources, and that helps the defendants compared to the prosecution, but that's a reversal of the way it normally works. So I don't think it can be considered illegal to raise funds for your defense. Courts are just not going to go that far. They're not going to. The second thing I think that has made this so controversial is that it suggests that he's really popular, that people are on his side. The fact that he's able to raise $500,000 in funds for his defense means there are some large number of people out there who are attempting to help him, who want him to succeed, want his defense to go well. As far as the evidence here, it appears from what we have so far from the federal government, from the state of New York, that they feel like the evidence is overwhelming against Luigi Mangione. We don't have his side yet. We don't have that available. But there is, without question, anger in our country about the healthcare system. And I understand that. I get that. I even share that. I mean, we went through, my husband, George, as you know, passed away last May, and he went through a long period of time where he was became a quadriplegic over time. And he had disability insurance for the government, and it was 1/5 of the amount of health care costs for him in a given year. So here's the disability and here's the cost over here. It was untenable. I mean, it was 5 times as much. And we had 2 private policies that piled on top of that. Even all put together, it was half of the amount that his medical care was costing. This is crazy. I get that. I get that that's unacceptable. But the question here is not just whether or not the healthcare system is bad, but the funding of the legal defense for someone who killed somebody or is alleged to have killed somebody because they wanted to make a point about the healthcare system. Those are wildly different things. Wanting to make a point about the healthcare system and murder, 2 really, really different things. So that's what's making this so controversial, I think, is the idea that people are mixing things together, They have this anger about the healthcare system, but then there's a murder over here, and those are two totally different things. So I don't think it's wrong in any way to raise money. Richard Allen did it as well, raise money for his defense, raise money for his experts. I think sometimes there's no alternative for the defense to be able to mount a case in some of these very expensive, very hard-fought cases. There's not enough funding there for them to do it otherwise. So I will take a few questions and I will look for those. If you would put question marks at the beginning, that will really help me. All right, Chico Karen has been a member for 12 months. Tonight is our 12-month anniversary. So thank you to all the people who have been here for a solid 12. It's every day we have had members. So thank you so much for doing that. Oh, wow, people were already putting in their questions. Okay. Annie K., where do you think the line of decency is in this situation that won't acknowledge the victim's loss of life? The victim can't create a website response. Cringy. So says Annie K. And Annie, I think there already are things built in that the prosecution has been allowed to do. Now, there isn't really in what the prosecution does much acknowledgement of the victim. It's more focused on what their evidence is, but they've done press conferences and press releases, and they've also done a very detailed statement of what they believe the evidence against Luigi Mangione is. We've gone over that in another video, which I'll link at the end, so you can know more about what exactly is the evidence against him and what are they saying is the evidence. So as far as I feel like I feel like what he's done here is nothing other than respond, but this runs a huge risk of crossing over that line. I think he's at the line. So where's the line? It's right here. He is all the way over on that line. Michael, weren't Luigi Mangione and P. Diddy once housed in the same jail facility? Yes, I think they still are. I think they are still housed in a correctional center for federal prisoners who are awaiting trial. They are both present there. I've heard the same thing, that they're both there. Peppermint, is this an admission of guilt displaying the security cam photo of Luigi Mangione smiling in New York City at the hostel? That photo was used to find him. So Peppermint, I don't know so much it would be an admission of guilt. And I think you're wanting to know more about, would that be evidence? And yes, evidence of him in New York City at the hostel would be important. They talk about that in the description of the facts against Luigi, and not so much his demeanor. It's the picture of who is he, because he took off his mask and smiled at the worker there. And they have a photograph of it, and they believe they've traced the person who committed the murder, and they believe they can put all those pieces together. We'll obviously see more about that at trial. When I say we'll see more about that at trial, I don't really mean we'll see more of that at trial, because it won't be broadcast. At least the one in federal, well, none of them will be broadcast. So we won't, it will have to be coming from people who are inside the courtroom watching. It won't be televised. Diana Bishop asks, has the Mangione family issued a statement about their son? I'm pretty sure that they did issue a statement, and mostly just asked for privacy. I don't think that it was a statement that said very much, but I believe they did issue a statement. What could he plead? Colleen asks. His choices are going to be, and I think Colleen's asking me, could he take a plea deal? I don't think that's very likely in this case. I don't think he's very likely to get an offer. I don't know how much less they could give him. I mean, maybe he could agree to life in prison to avoid the death penalty. That's pretty much about it. And I imagine instead he would go to trial. I think it would be more likely. Where was he apprehended? Any chance of a televised trial there? Eeyore asked. That's a great question. He was apprehended in Altoona, Pennsylvania. I don't know whether Pennsylvania will allow televised trials, but the issue is that he wasn't arrested for the murder there. He was arrested for other smaller charges there, like fake identity and things like that. So a televised trial wouldn't be all that dramatic. It wouldn't have that much information to give us about the murder itself, because it's not going to include that. And so we've got some more 12-monthers. So Majestic Unicorn, been here since day one, baby. All right. I'm so glad, Majestic Unicorn. Glad you are here. Sky Goddess, happy anniversary. Thank you. And I want to say thank you to our mods too. Thank you, Sky Goddess, for that comment. Marlon, Mama Pinks, and Denise Pelton are our mods, and we are so grateful for them. Squinting Cat says, time flies and happy anniversary. So we will be having a world's first, I am convinced, for a YouTube members only event live stream we were going to be having later this week. I'm thinking Friday. I'll let you know if I move it to Wednesday. But and did I say Wednesday last time and now I'm moving it to Friday? I'm not sure. Like I say, I haven't decided. But what we're going to be doing is we are going to be writing our very own true crime novel using your suggestions and ChatGPT. And we're just going to see what happens. We're going to try this twist and that twist, and we'll see what happens. I have no idea how it'll work, but I think it's going to be a blast. I think we're going to really have a lot of fun. If you're not a member, our moderators will put in the chat how you can become a member. Essentially, there's a join button down by the name of the channel, Lawyer Lee, and you can hit join. And that will, you sign up through that. If you're on your iPhone, you're going to have to either go through your Safari browser, not the YouTube app, or you're going to have to just get on your computer and join that way. But that will be a lot of fun. Denise saying, when is the members only live? Okay, I need to make a choice. I just wanted to give us enough time for everybody to hear about it. I really want to do it on Wednesday, but I'm afraid there won't be enough time for people to have heard about it, because I think this is going to be extremely fun. I don't think people are going to want to miss this. I think it's going to be a blast. So you put some votes in there for me. I'll be looking at the chat. Okay, KS. I think I already thanked KS. But thank you again, KS. Oh, I didn't thank KS. Thank you. And thank you, Lawyer Lee and mods. Happy anniversary to us. I completely agree. And Laura Liz is a new member. Fantastic. That's great. All right. So we are looking, I'm looking for the questions with the question marks at the beginning. I'm also going to be looking at your comments about when you think we ought to do this. Do we have enough time to get everybody ready for Wednesday, or do we need to put it off till Friday? I see Saturday. Friday. I know we're going to have 1,000 different times. Friday, yes to Wednesday. All right. I don't know. I'll put out an explanation of when we're going to do it. I'll put out a statement. That sounds really broad. I'll post on YouTube telling you when it will be. All right. Do we know anything about Mangione's own health issues and pain? We know that he had some kind of issue, but it didn't appear that he had been denied medical treatment. All of that was sort of confusing. I would expect that to be part of a statement that his lawyers want to put in at trial. And I would expect the prosecution to say that's not really relevant. All that matters is that you killed this person. Your own medical journey isn't relevant to us. So that's how I expect a coming argument. What could his defense be? Don't know. I really have no idea. We have not been given any hint at all. And this website doesn't give us any hint. We don't have any extra explanation from that. All right. So it's Friday, Wednesday, Friday. Friday. There are a lot of Fridays. I'm saying the Friday vote is high. I know Annie K is not wanting Friday. Okay. So Eeyore and Tigger, where has the conversation gone in the chat? I do not know where this is coming from. Rosie is asking me, Luigi reminds me of Brian Koberger. They do look a little bit alike. I agree with that. And also going to great lengths just to get caught right away. Well, he did have 5 days, I guess. And come to think of it, I guess Koberger had enough time to go across the country. But they both got caught rather quickly. I don't know. I can't even speculate or go there. We'll just have to wait and find out what the defense is and what will happen next. So, all right. Well, do not forget, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, I will be going live again. And we have so many things to cover. It's just an embarrassment of riches. We have a ton of things for this week. I want to get back to the Rose Petal murder trial. That's fascinating. There is a lot going on with Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Really interesting case. just up my alley. I've done many similar cases, so that's super interesting to me. And I think we'll have plenty of fun things to talk about with that. So I will look forward to seeing you all Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. See you then.